There are times, for whatever reason, that you might want a smoother canvas than you have purchased. And this canvas is just off the shelf, and it's primed with acrylic gesso, and it's well primed. But if you want the surface to be smoother or a different texture, a couple coats of gesso are not a bad idea. I really like this golden gesso, and you can, of course, apply it with a brush, but you can also apply it with a knife. And I like to do it this way, partly because it's really fast, and partly because I can control how much texture I get. This is going to get a little noisy. I always like to keep a brush and a soft brush and some water and paper towels handy. And you can do whatever you want with this gesso. You can make it really smooth, or you can leave some texture to it. You can put it on thick, you can do it in a couple coats, you can pour it on. It's just a really quick way to add an extra layer to your canvas and perhaps change the texture of it. And the soft brush and the paper towels come in handy when you get to the edges, which you can do what you want. It kind of sinks in a little bit, so your strokes won't be quite as obvious. And watch for lumps and things like that. There's something there on that canvas. You don't even have to cover the whole thing if you don't want to. It's up to you. Sometimes the canvas, if you're going to leave some white areas, sometimes the canvas is a little bit different color than the gesso, so you might want to cover it all for that reason. And there's lots of kinds of gesso. I just really like this golden one. And this knife that I'm using, I actually bought it at Bulk Barn. It's for cake decorating. You can use a palette knife, or you can use a trowel or a credit card even if you want to, an old credit card. So I got it right to the edges. And then I can decide if I want it smoother, I can continue to work it. You've got lots of time with this, or I can just leave strokes if I want some kind of interesting texture underneath, or if I don't mind that look. So now if I want to fix up the edges, I can either dry brush a little bit just to smooth it out with a really soft brush, or I could take my paper towel, I could dampen it. There's all kinds of options. It's just a way to give your canvas another layer. Some pre-primed canvases that you purchase will just suck up paint like crazy. Both oil paint or acrylic paint. Most of the time we work on an acrylic primed canvas. You can buy oil primed canvases. I personally don't use them because they smell, and I don't do well with that smell, and because they're less common and more expensive. So acrylic gesso primed canvases are really kind of a norm that most artists use for painting with acrylic or oils. So once I've done some brush strokes around, I might want to just smooth those out if I don't want brush strokes. So that's entirely up to you. It's just a way of preparing a canvas. Make sure you let it dry well before you attempt to paint or draw on it. And of course, if I wanted to, I could go ultra smooth by going back and forth and letting this smooth out a lot. So it's just personal preference. A little bit of the canvas texture showing is nice too, because it does allow your paint to kind of ride over the canvas and create a broken color. Another tip, if you are preparing a canvas and you're going to start your painting, if you're going to be working in oils, it's a good idea to put your hanging wire on the canvas first. And then when your painting is done, if your edges are dry enough, or even if they aren't sometimes, you can hang it on the wall to dry. Or even just hang it somewhere in the basement or something. It's just easier than trying to lay it flat where it can collect dust. So I often will put a hanger on first.